It is 6 o'clock. I will call this meeting to order. Roll has been taken. I will not, Mr. Grutton in. I have roll is taken. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Ross, second by Bart to approve the agenda. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Minutes of the previous meeting. Motion by Ross, second by Bart to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Any discussion? Any questions? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public appearances, let the record state, no one is here to contact us. Let's move on to monthly business. Move them. Approve the vouchers and the checks.
Second.
Motion by Bart, second by Dave to approve the vouchers and the checks. Is there any questions on anything? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Prior month income statement. Anybody have any questions or concerns about the income statements? If not, we will move on. Council acts affecting the utility. Resolution 1, 2024, approve appointments to committees, whereas, whereas Chapter 2 of the Juneau Code of Ordinances requires that the mayor appoint common council committee representatives at the first common council meeting in April. He appointed Mr. Broughton and Mr. Evans to the Utility Commission. And the other one is Resolution 13, 2024, approve the purchase of 9 decorative street light poles and 9 decorative fixtures for East Oak Street reconstruction project. If anybody has any questions on that, I think Nick might give you more information on that, but if you have any questions. All right. Move on to consumption and loss. Wow, that's nice, 6%. Water pumping?
It's just on the water side.
Yeah, 29.3 on the
Skip right over
wastewater.
that
Just
one.
gotta skip that one?
Yeah, it looked pretty good on the pumping side, but
Yeah.
the 29.3 on the,
So we have water that grows, we make more water.
Yep.
Especially when it rains,
29%.
especially when it rains.
Add
Yeah,
trees,
23% more water.
Does construction site have all their holes plugged up? Or are we still getting
no,
orange, or are we
that's-
still getting orange water?
So this is March, so this was during the period when it was still going on.
Okay.
And then, so then Sunset View by April was cleared up, but then in April is gonna be bad too. Cause we had that, all that rain beginning of April,
Mhm.
and our flows were really bad. So we did get, I mean, we definitely got water in on Oak Street construction going on when they were there or are there, cause it's just, you got an open trench.
Yeah.
Open trench with an
That's-
open pipe.
Yep, that was-
Here it
yeah,
goes.
yeah, I get it, there's nothing you can do about that.
So that's gonna be a lot of probably April's bad, but I don't think they really started till April, so.
they're talking about rain every other day now.
Our flows have been better now, so hopefully that calms down a little bit.
Okay. It's better in Texas.
Yeah, I'll Texas you would,
Lot
let's
better.
get your boat out.
Delinquent customers.
We had, were you, Susan?
What's that?
I thought you said something.
No, I
Um, We had 24 disconnects and 2 remain out. So, she got the list down pretty good right there at the end.
Yeah,
I don't know what the number was before the day, it was pretty high. But we had a lot of people go on payment plan agreements, and we had one faulted payment plan agreement, and I was gonna go to disconnect them tomorrow, but they came and paid, so. The 2 remain out, the one is, the guy's, he says he has no money, so the house is most likely gonna go in foreclosure. Told him, I'm sorry, we have our disconnects with past 2 payments, and just because you don't have the money doesn't mean you gotta keep your electricity, so. I don't know if you probably turn the water off
yeah,
there.
we turn the water off there
We
too.
just bought that house like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
So,
he's the guy with the water,
he has the water barrels,
water girls.
rain barrels.
All right.
The other one that's still out is been working on getting energy assistance, and it was called St. Vincent de Paul and some other charity thing that we've not heard of. And those agencies will call and get the information. The lady had moved in November, has never made a payment until just this past Friday. And so it's kind of like once they hear that, then they don't call back, they don't approve any assistance for her. So she's been working on trying to get help, and nobody wants to help for some reason. But we also found out today that with energy assistance, she was caught in a lie, and it's going to be, some of her energy assistance is going to be taken away from her and given back to them. So she's not in a good spot.
So energy assistance is that they'll help you with your bill, but you have to pay a portion
Right,
of it.
yep,
It's based on certain application
Correct.
criteria.
right. But-
Criteria.
And all
She
three.
made no effort from November, so.
Right, and all 3 of the agencies, once they talked to her, they said they got a different story every time they talked to her, and she's just, I think, trying to work the system maybe a little, I'm not sure, but, so she's still.
Out of my 11-year disconnects, this was the first year I've had so many baffled people, like, what do you mean you're shutting my power off? It's like, wait a second, you guys got 2 mailings and a phone call, and you haven't been paying anything since November, so I don't know how this is a new thing for you.
Well, and they even advertise it on the radio that,
Right.
you know, the
The
energy,
disconnects,
the
right.
disconnects are starting again.
Okay. So that's that, so. Okay, reports of officials, utility accountant.
On that whole thing on the disconnect still, I wanted to just mention that last year we had, for our first round of calls in April, we had 78 calls that went out, and this year, we had 40. And there were 36 disconnects last year, and this year we had 24. So, I think it's just a point that Pamela's doing her job and getting after people to make sure money's coming in. My first point on the agenda was discuss and possibly approve the purchase of a new laptop for taking meeting minutes. This piece of stuff has been dying for the last, I don't know, 6 months or so, and it's kind of not working. So I talked to Javis, and they suggested us getting an iPad like you guys use up at City Hall for meetings, that they're able to connect it to the server and get into my files, whatever. And that would be like about $800. And then after I looked at this, I realized I probably didn't need to put this on the agenda, because we do have, in the equipment replacement fund, we do have this budgeted for this year to be replaced. So I don't know if you need to still do that or not, but we do have the money set aside in the equipment replacement fund for it, so.
I guess
If it's in the budget, we don't need to vote on it.
Right.
we don't need to vote on it, so.
So I
Make it
should
happen.
check that out before I put that on
Make
there.
it,
Make it
just
happen.
make it happen.
The other point was to review and discuss the scholarship applications and select winners. I had only gotten those 2 applications that you guys have copies of, so,
We have 2 scholarships to give,
yeah.
and we have 2 applications.
This sounds pretty easy to me.
I think
So
it's,
I didn't
I would like-
bother with your tally sheet or anything, because I figured there's.
I'd like to point out that yearly we sit down with Erica Stecky, our energy services manager for WPPI, and we do like a yearly breakdown of customers reach out, things that advocate. And one of those things was to talk to the school about our scholarship opportunities. We even suggested that I could come in and speak and do like a career day. Eric volunteered to come in and go through like billings to learn skills for paying your bills, because that seems to be something this newer generation has difficulty doing. And we didn't receive much back from the school district as far as, yeah, we're interested in this.
You might have to find an individual teacher.
And I did that a couple years ago. I reached out to, he's not there anymore. Like the guidance, he's not there anymore. It's a new guidance counselor now. And that didn't help either.
That's what I'm saying, a
We-
specific teacher from a specific class, and I don't know which one, I don't know which one to recommend or tell you to look
it
into,
used to
but
be, they used to teach what they used to call civics. They don't teach that anymore in school. You would have to, which was just general things that happened in, I don't know who the,
Well, what helps now is, it doesn't help for this year, but my wife does sit on the board now, so don't like to use your power, but at least get a word out that there's opportunities that are not being taken for, especially people that live in town. You know, there's more than 2 people that live in Juneau that go to that school.
well,
Just seems like a shame every year that this kind of goes to the waste.
I don't think it's going to a waste though, you're helping,
Right,
we're
it's
helping
going-
two, we're
it's going
helping
to
2, we're helping
people.
2 kids.
But it just seems like,
Well,
Should
you're
be
lucky
more.
that there were the applicants too, you know.
well,
You could
as
use
it,
stuff.
as it was last week, I talked to Lori, and she didn't have any applicants.
and that was the wrong word to use, or I didn't mean to say waste, but
To
just more
be,
applicants.
we have a problem with the guidance system at the school, where they don't publicize this. I mean, we give $2,000 scholarships.
I remember when I was in school, and that's something I can reach out to Jessica Johnson about, is when I attended Dodger, we got a packet of offered scholarships that we could apply for. And it was like a list of 60, scholarships, available scholarships. And I would assume, since we do reach out to the school district every year, that would be part of that. And you obviously go to the award meeting every time, so I just don't know why it's getting missed. It seems like it's getting missed.
Oh, I mentioned last year when I was there that it's kind of bad. We only had one student from Dodgeland that applied.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some from Lakeside that have applied. Why not? I mean, as long as they live and serviced by the Juneau Utilities, they're eligible.
It's the only requirement?
That's the only requirement. I mean, they can use this scholarship to go to Moraine Park. And if they use it, we've had one student that I know of that used it for the lineman school. Why not? I mean, we could use a lineman.
Yeah, this one here, lab work, environmental protection.
Yeah.
That's kind of-
I mean, there's openings for these kids. I mean, and who can't use $1,000 to go to school? It's what I can't figure out.
Well, the paperwork we send, does it say that the requirements are only this? That you have to be a utility user?
Yep.
Yep.
And the monies, maybe it needs to, maybe we gotta add on there that it does not, monies don't need to be used for a utility type job.
I think it explains that in there too.
Maybe. I mean, it's pretty, I mean,
Fine for that.
when I'm there on the 15th, I will try and get a hold of the guidance counselor.
Do kids not think $1,000 is worth batting an eye at?
It's
not
an
a lot of money.
application to fill out. You
Right,
need
but-
to,
No,
I
it's
mean,
not
they-
a
Yeah, and these two
computer.
kids did it, it's an automatic gift.
I
Because we only had
mean,
two.
here you get two people that sign, just fill it out, they're getting $1,000. Okay. It's better than nothing. Unless everybody's independently wealthy.
Well,
Looks like these two guys are getting
Yeah.
scholarships.
So- I will make a motion that we give the 2 scholarships to these 2 applicants.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
The only other thing I have that I had put under yours, Matt, is the public power dinner, or regional, WPPI regional dinner. I have the sign-up sheet, and we need to turn that in next week, so if any of you guys want to go to the dinner, it's on June 5th. Okay.
The mayor's going. She is going.
And Pam and I are both going, so.
I still haven't, I gotta make sure I have a babysitter for sure.
Yeah, so we gotta get it turned in next week, so anybody else, Matt, you going?
Yes.
I gotta look at the calendar, I didn't bring my phone, so I can't look.
Well, if you're going, get
I
in
will
touch
get-
with Lori.
I know where she is.
And,
I'm gonna find it.
I guarantee you the food is good.
We usually have the duck, I think, right?
The last time, which was every 2 years they have this, they had 4 kinds of meat to choose from. And if you don't have enough to eat, it's your own fault. And it's free food for it. So,
Did you get it?
No, I didn't.
You're for sure signed up all that.
but it's well worth the evening. It's a good time. I will contact Dick. I don't know if he's gonna be back in time for that, so. Alrighty. Moving on. Electric superintendent.
Yeah, so the first thing on mine was the electric work for the Juneau welcome sign. Dan approached me. And this all transpired through, originally was automated pedicure, but now it's Whiskers. Whiskers kind of made a pledge years ago, or automated pedicure made a pledge years ago that they would pay for a new welcome sign. And Dan revisited that with Whiskers, and they do want to contribute to the welcome sign. And there was discussion of having the welcome sign back in its old location. You guys remember there used to be a sign by Ken Stocks there
Yeah.
on the hillside. So that picture I gave kind of, it's a broad. We don't know the exact location yet. But Dan asked me to set up an estimate for it. Without knowing the exact location, I roughly guess it'd be $721.33, not to exceed $850. That was just where I thought the sign would best be placed, and that was the measurement I took, so it's outlines the scope of work there as well. You know, this is one of those things too where, is this something that we would consider donating for the contributions that we give to the city? That'd be up for you guys to decide. But I know Dan's gonna be presenting this at council next month, so. The good thing is about that location, I mean, we have a pole there that's already on the backside of the sidewalk. We can tap off the streetlights. They don't need to have their own sensor light for the lights on the welcome sign, because the power kicks on. It's got its own contactor when it's night off, or nighttime anyways. It's already metered, which is built in the city. So it's actually a really good location for us just to do a little bit of work there. My hope is that we can rent a plow from Cook's Telecommunications and not have any restoration involved with that ground there. Otherwise, we'll use the trencher. The Cooks have been fortunate enough where they will donate a rental fee for us for the city like that, so.
How far are you gonna plow?
I think it's only gonna be, what, 60 feet?
Approximately the little red line.
Yeah. I did go out and I did find the lot pin by Stocks there that intersects the lot pin in the car wash and Stocks property and the city property, so. Without removing those 3 bushes there, I just thought Dan is gonna meet me up there and officially decide once it's all the go ahead, but
Do we have any money in our fund yet?
Yeah, I believe we didn't, I didn't look at that, but we didn't spend much, we didn't allocate much yet. So we should have that.
I'm 99% positive we hit that.
Yeah.
So we could allocate
We did
$850
the
towards
shop-
this?
shops,
I think so comfortably, easily.
Yeah.
That would be,
Something we can do.
that would be easy.
Yep.
Wanna do it?
I'll make a motion for that.
We have a motion and a second. Motion is by Bart, second by Ross, to donate $850 to the street sign, the new Juneau welcome sign on West Oak Grove. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
All right, and then project updates, as you guys saw in the resolution with the streetlights, it was approved for the city to purchase those, or their share of those lights. After I got approval, I reached back out to the streetlight manufacturer with the updated spacing. A week later, I got a new quote, and they didn't have any of the spacing changed. I reached back out, and I was like, guys, I gave you a PDF that's spelled out. So something happened, they're reworking it, and I still am waiting for the finalized spec to come back to get going on these lights. So they haven't been purchased yet. I've been calling every 3 days and complaining, so hopefully we can get those soon.
When would they get?
It's 7? No, so we're gonna be installing our standardized aluminum poles. They have the same base. And then when they come, we'll replace them all. It's not, I mean, it is a little bit of a pain in the butt, but the good thing is most of those that are gonna be put up with the wire inside, we'll be able to keep the wire in it and then just move it to Miller Street when that gets done. All but 2 of them. So it's a little bit of a waste of time, but it's not the end of the world.
These are all LED lights.
Yeah, and then I did find a light that the city wants. I sent it to the guy right away. He says he does have a similar light, and I'm waiting to hear back. It's the same guy that I'm dealing with the poles and fixtures, so hopefully by end of next week they're ordered. The Fair Street with the pipe that was approved last week, sounds like the end of next week we'll be able to get that in. I know we discussed a little bit about underground versus overhead. Dan mentioned a little bit like he likes the overhead because it's easy to fix. Charter is bringing theirs all the way underground, all the way from East Oak all the way to our shop here. So the good thing is with that is we can go try and purchase with them and pay a minimal price than what we normally would do. I'm not saying we're doing it, but I'm gonna just entertain it and see how it would cost us to see if it would cost similar to what an overhead system is, because they're putting in the pipe. Like typically they would go joint with us and then they get it much cheaper. It's vice versa, we would get it much cheaper going with them. So we're gonna be looking into that and hopefully set up a plan. But end of next week, Cook's Telecommunications will be in to put that pipe just crossing East Oak. The remainder of that project would be at 2025. The cost for that pipe installed is $16,000. I have $110,000 for pipe installation per year, so we're well underneath that budget number. Sunset View update, we got 4 units energized. We're looking to energize another unit hopefully this week. And then it's gonna be kind of a waiting game as far as them getting their grade close to where it needs to be. They got a lot of black dirt to move in that back corner. It would be the northeast corner of that area. But we'll be able to get, as soon as they pour the houses along Western, we'll be able to energize those right away. So we're ready to energize another 4, but we're just waiting for them to get the foundations poured so we can land the pipe. So to where it's gonna be renting in the house. So the project's going good, it's just a lot of, you get so much done, you gotta wait for them to catch back up and move forward. Wastewater treatment plant service for the new upgrade. Transformer was supposed to be delivered the week of the 20th, so 2 weeks. We got wire pulled in today. We're gonna do the terminations on the riser and ground them, hopefully by the end of the week, depending on rain. So that way, when the transformer comes, we can get going right away. Sounds like we're gonna be a little waiting a game with Keeper, but at least it's not us that we're waiting for. I'll be at a conference next week, MEW conference next week, from the 15th to the 17th. And then as far as our applicants, we have a ton of applicants. All but 2 are apprentices. 2 journeymen, 1 journeyman who would never interview, and the other one I'm interviewing Thursday. I did hear back from state workforce development. I'm sorry, allergies. That we will most likely be approved for an apprentice. They did have some concerns of why we weren't getting many applicants. They asked what our journeyman wage was, and I told them. They then sent me an email showing what because they got a database of what the average journeyman lineman makes. And they said that the experienced journeyman lineman average was $50.24. And they're like, we'd really like to see your board make an adjustment before we approve an apprentice, because we think that this is the issue why you're not getting applicants. And I do agree with them a little bit, because we did receive, 6 phone calls from journeymen?
Yeah.
And as soon as we tell them their wage, they said they were not interested. So, but thankfully, the 1 applicant that I'm interviewing Thursday is just under us by a few cents, and I think he would be a really good fit without even interviewing him. I know him just based on being part of memberships and meetings, so we'll see how the interview goes. Like I said, we're not going to rush into anything, but we'll see how the interview goes Thursday. Other than that, that's all I have. I just ask that you guys kind of keep in mind, look at surveys, I know it's been a ongoing, repeated thing. I did reach out to a lot of utilities. Waupун's over 50, Columbus is over 50, Hughesford's higher than us. There's only 1 utility that's less than us right now, and that's where this person is coming from. So,
What's journeyman now?
our wage is
Yeah.
47.86 or 60,
Yeah,
47 something.
Vacation wise?
Yeah, so that was another thing I was gonna bring up, thanks for saying that, Mac. Obviously, this guy is a lead lineman where he's at right now. We are gonna have to offer some kind of vacation, and we can't start him off at nothing. So I don't know how you guys want it.
I don't know, I guess I don't have a problem with that.
I'd like to be able to say, I'm not asking him to give him everything up front, but 2 weeks, I was thinking, seems fair to me. I think he has 3 weeks where he's at right now. Because I did ask, I said, if you don't mind me asking, what do you, he told me 3 weeks vacation. So maybe I would start off at 2 weeks and see what he says from there, if we do offer a position.
See what he's asking for,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can work from there. I mean, that's what we've done in the past,
Right.
is that see what he will like, and then kind of, you can always you can always go down a little bit, or, up a little bit.
Because I think what I did in Columbus when I hired a few people is we would hire them at 5 year, 5 years, 5 days, or we'd hire them at 10 year with which is the 3 weeks or whatever year.
Well, how many years does he have, how many years of experience?
He's been, he had 6 years at a previous employee, and then he's been with the current one for 8 years.
14 years.
So he's got a lot of experience. But we'll tackle that. I just wanted to kind of keep.
Well,
you guys
I
in
see no day one, with no problem with 2 weeks, and beyond that, we can talk about it.
Right.
And we have to just sit down. MEUW is, they haven't come up with their schedule, their run yet, have they?
Which
No, it should be in June, I believe,
we're gonna have a special
The-
meeting.
survey.
Is there, if I talk to Mac, then if we are gonna give this guy an offer to have a special meeting to have this approved? Because I know Pam will need that. Pam won't.
Yep, I mean, you gotta have a special meeting, we gotta have a special meeting.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we need to get a guy.
Right,
I mean, that's where we're at, we need to get a guy.
right. But yeah, we'll see how Thursday goes, and I'll give you guys an update.
If we have to talk about wages, we'll,
Yeah,
we'll discuss that too.
I'm always like afraid to come forward with you guys, because it just seems like.
Well, it's not so
Well,
much, it's not so much here that's the problem, it's
It's when
City
we-
Hall that's the
it's when
problem.
we go to the other office.
The person that, when we have a personnel meeting, then there's,
You tell them what you decided.
You know,
I mean, we
had
need a
that
person.
We need that discussion.
We have a
down
guy
there.
that's interested in 15 year, that has 15 years of experience doing this.
And he's a journeyman, he's got the
Yeah,
licenses
so,
and
and
everything else.
if you think he's a good fit, we're gonna have to bite the bullet and pay some. Maybe you might have to bite the bullet and pay some more.
Yeah.
We'll tackle that when it comes, but just wanted to give you guys an update.
I mean, based on the
Okay.
last MEUW survey we had, I didn't think we were too far off of where we needed to be, but
The thing is.
the problem
seems
is,
like this fuel is.
but the problem is people are desperate. If they're desperate, then then they wanna pay more, then they wanna pay more. Well, then that shows up on the state's thing when it's like, it might be kind of inflated.
Ever. And then anybody who doesn't want more money to do their job
Oh, yeah.
isn't worth what you want.
And we did Alex got, Waupun included us in their last survey, and we got their survey results as well. So if you guys wanna look at that, I think Matt, you right to it.
I,
I think we forwarded.
The one I sent you before last month's meeting. You asked how to read it.
yeah.
Yeah, they based-
I looked
they
at
based
it and
off
it's
of
all
salary,
kinda Greek
not
to me.
hourly
Yeah.
wage.
I'll check my phone and see what.
It was Waupun paid a firm to do a wage survey of.
If you have that, you
Yeah.
can send it to us.
Yeah. So it was just all utility positions for cities that were comparable to Waupun.
So they're a little
obviously-
bigger than us.
Correct.
They did location and size,
Yeah.
neighboring utilities.
But that's who we're competing against, even though they're a little bigger than us, that's who we're competing against.
The only
Whether City Hall believes that or not.
The only weird part about it was they reported wages in gross dollars in thousands. So
Comes
before
up as-
taxes,
Well, that's what I usually do.
yeah, okay, so not in dollars
like
per
your-
hour, but
Right.
Yeah, but you can divide by,
Divided by
2080 you
2080.
get there.
yeah.
So, yep, no, so they did that and we have the data from it, so. And it showed more or less that we were
Bottom.
in the less
25th
than
percentile.
25th percentile. And everything that they found,
That's all
In
I got.
cities that size.
So you'll email that to us?
so I certainly can.
Me too, please.
Well, if you do that, send it out to everybody and
Individually.
individually.
Or else
Or-
just remind them not to reply all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's a way of doing it where.
Or you can send it,
I'll show you.
BCC,
Yeah.
Yeah.
blank
That's
copy.
easy.
A blank copy.
Yeah.
so, all righty. That it for Nick?
Alright, so
Okay. Moving on. Does anybody have any questions for Nick? Excuse me. If not, Alex.
Okay. So we'll start with, we want to do, and it's not even so much a formal approval, but we do need a preliminary approval for a change order that we'd like to push through at the wastewater plant. This was a valve that we had budgeted, or tried to budget, to replace 2 years ago, before this all started, because we thought it was a higher priority, that we wanted this valve fixed right away. After we incorrectly budgeted dollar figures, we said, just add it to the project, and just because we can't afford it, more or less, to do it on our own. Lines of communication got crossed, it didn't get added to the project like it was supposed to, so this is us adding it to the project. This is kind of hieroglyphics, but just kind of the dollars and cents of what they're quoting us. It's just short of $26,000 for a 14-inch plug valve. The function of this valve is to allow us to bypass our chlorine contact chambers and our samplers and our phosphorus analyzer. And the idea of why we would do that is because if we're cleaning out our clarifiers, sending all that algae downstream, we'd prefer to bypass that sensitive equipment and send the algae past it, as opposed to this tanks. If we leave it on line, the algae will just settle there and turn into mud. So the idea is this current valve doesn't work. We'd like to replace it so that we can keep the plant as clean as we can, basically. So, and this isn't like the formal DNR change order paperwork that you've seen before, but because it's a long lead time item, we need to get it ordered. So I kind of need a preliminary approval just to say, when we do push this into the next change order, that we'll at least approve this item.
Comes out of the replacement plan, doesn't it?
This would be on the construction loan. For the wastewater
Replacing an
plant.
existing valve.
Right. But we already have $725,000 in our contingency money for the loan,
Right, I see what you're saying.
so.
Right.
would be-
Well, and we've had enough change orders in our favor that this
Right.
is more than covered.
Yep, so I do have that. We are still $68,000 below our original bid price. So we would start fighting into that.
A good flush valve is very important. Again,
It helps to have valves that work.
So, what is your pleasure?
I'll make a motion that we do this change order, the valve for $25,964.
And the part itself is $18,000.
Okay, is there a second?
The rest of
I'll second it.
Okay, and motion by Dave, second by Bart, to approve the change order for this valve. Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
Okay. So next item we kind of talked about last month, and I came a little bit more prepared this time. We have a couple of options for our failing raw pump at our wastewater plant. So I kind of tried to lay it out with what's going on and what our options are for replacing or repairing them. Like pump number 1 being only at 485 gallons a minute. When we had those higher flows in early April, it was to the point where we couldn't run pump number 1 as the lead for an extended period of time just because it could not keep up with the flow coming into the plant. could only run as the leg pump. And then pump number 4 is, the bearings are failed, so for that basically 2-week period of time, we were only going back and forth between pump 2 and 3, just to keep up with the flow coming in all the time.
What's the flow capacity of a new pump?
They're designed at 750, which is,
So pump 4 is an overachiever.
it certainly is.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see at the bottom what we have for options. These are all like kind replacement, so it would just be pull one out, put the same thing back in. We can do just pumps 1 and 4. I have quoted for $57,987. And you can do all 4 of them for the $115,975. That is basically adds up to exactly. They didn't give you any better of a price doing all 4. He did say if we wait on some of them, they're looking at a 10% increase for next year. But that's every salesman you've ever talked to will say the same thing. So it's kind of,
Yeah, he wants to get his commission now.
yeah. So it's,
He has a boat to buy or something.
yeah. Well, he dropped off some Danishes on Thursday. So
Oh, wow.
he was really buttering me up there.
If he's gonna do that, he needs to drop off stuff.
Yeah, the commissioner.
Bring some
Yeah.
dinner here.
Tell them when our meetings are.
Chicken dinner or something.
Yeah, he walks in the door unannounced. Said,
Chicken
"Hey,
and
your
steak."
meeting's on Monday, right?" Yeah. So, the other option is to just stay with what I have budgeted already and have them pull and try to repair them.
I mean, if it's diminished capacity, I mean, I'm thinking.
What I'm afraid
The pump is probably, if we're running, I mean, it may pay to rebuild pump 4.
right.
But the
Yeah.
other 3, I'm at the point where it's like, I mean, especially 1 and 2, they probably should be replaced.
Right, and that's kind
Original
of,
equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are,
and that's
so
what
those
they-
are 40-year-old pumps
they
that
tell
have
you
been
is-
rebuilt.
if you need the impeller replaced, you're pretty much better off to just replace the pump.
Yeah.
Housing's
So-
worn out.
Yeah. So, I mean, at this point, it looks like 1 and 2 should be replaced. 3, you could go either way on 3. 4, you probably could rebuild if it's an overachievers.
Right.
Could be rebuilt and put in stock as a spare too.
That's also true.
That's true too, is that replace 4
Hang on.
and, replace all 4 and have pump 4 rebuilt.
Right.
And have that one as that is a good idea, I like that.
Right, and then at least you, well, I don't know, because then your seals start drying out, so
Yeah, your seal's dry.
that's of course a piece. I would almost say to just keep either 2 or 3 in stock, because the seals on 3 aren't horrible, but they're on their way. But yeah,
You
just
leave
keep-
it sit, you leave that sit,
They'll
the
get
seals
worse.
dry out and
Yeah.
they'll be
So I don't know,
crappy.
just keep one of them on the shelf so that at least when we do have one serviced, we have one we can put in its place.
Your best bet is,
Yeah,
is to probably replace all 4 and have it over
Yep.
with.
Put that in replacement fund anyway.
Yes.
Money does.
Yeah.
Either that or you keep pump 4 on the side and then when one starts to fail, send that to be rebuilt.
Rebuild it.
Rebuild it to.
Rebuild it
replace-
when you start having one
When you have one
Right.
failing.
failing, that's probably the
Diminished
smart thing to
capacity,
do.
as you're saying, you know, then you can rebuild the one sitting on the floor.
So what in the wastewater treatment plant, especially with all this big project that's going our way, is there any big ticket equipment that could and would fail?
This is
Outside
pretty
of
much-
these,
This is pretty much the last item that we didn't touch.
There's all 4 with the 144,000.
Was that- There's like a few wish list items that I think engineering kind of played into us. Like, you know, we'd like an automated gate. He's like, well,
Yeah, everybody.
you know, if you put a wish list on every single piece of equipment you have here, we're not gonna get this project approved in the first place. So he kind of shrugged it off, and then he also looked at these raw pumps, and we're like, well, these things are really old, we should have these replaced. And he kind of shrugged it off too, and that got certain individuals in the wastewater plant a little worked up. But you kind of got to look at his foresight in saying we have, you know, over $1 million in a replacement fund that we're not spending. So he's like, you might be better off just replacing it as you need to, you know, and not add how much to the project as well. So that was kind of his aspect. But yeah, as far as big ticket items that are left at the wastewater plant not being replaced, there's not a lot. Not that I can think of really.
To me
That's it.
personally, I'd replace all 4 pumps and have it.
Keep number 4 to be rebuilt. If you have one that starts giving you grief, then you have number 4 rebuilt
Well,
and
we can even keep any of them and just split the volute off and see if the impellers and the volutes, if one's better than the other.
Yeah.
You know,
There
that's
you go. I'd save with that spot. 2.
right. Right, we can keep them all.
Yeah,
That's his part.
you can also.
so you'd be looking at 115,000 plus 8,000. So you'd be looking at, we'll just call it 125,000 to do the
Sure.
job.
Yeah, and that's, I was gonna next say, motors and check valves
Sure.
is not a bad.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it while you have it apart,
Do it.
just
Do it and get it done. Do it right, rather than do it part way and then come back and then you're asking when the.
We should've done this way
We
back
should have
when.
done this
Yeah.
when we did it.
so
Yeah,
we're looking
I
at
believe-
125,000
I
roughly.
didn't write in here, but the motors were rebuilt in the early 2000s, I believe, 2005, 2004, 2006, something like that.
Yeah, well, they need to check them, make sure their bearings are, I mean,
Yeah.
these aren't, they're not run off of VFDs, are they?
They are.
They are? And then make sure they got good, either really ceramic bearings or else the grounding things on them so that but they probably do if they've lasted this long and we haven't had a problem.
Yeah. Motor-wise,
They were done correctly.
So,
Nick and I both know that saved hidden pumps out in the building can keep a place running.
Well,
yes,
I'll say it later, but
Got no money.
we just replaced the lift station pump and put the spare in the shed, so.
I used to have to go out to the old building and put grease in it. Pump that was out there. I don't know why. Every month I had to go out and grease it.
This is all labor and everything included in these prices?
I make a motion that we replace all 4 pumps and check valves.
You build the motors and the check valves.
Replace the 4 pumps and check valves. Rebuild motors and check valves.
PM the check valves. I'll second that.
Is there any more discussion? If not, you got a minute? You got me down for that?
I do.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. If you decide you want to keep two of them aside, then keep them under.
You have a little more storage now, so. We have the flexibility to do so.
All right.
So that is main points.
All right, project update.
Staub has continued underground piping. They installed some indoor piping, including the new flow meter at the wastewater plant. They completed the aeration equipment installation on the oxidation ditch after finding that they had mispoured some of the concrete walls and the bearing walls that this aeration equipment sits on. So we had to call out specialty sawing companies to cut their brand new concrete walls to create the proper bearing surface for these aerators. So that is now complete, and they did remount all this equipment, so that's at least squared away. It doesn't look as pretty as it could have, but it should operate.
So what are the cost for that equipment to be sawing?
They're gonna eat it.
They're gonna eat that.
Yeah. They did have to call Interstate Sawing and Demolition to come out to help them remove the concrete sloping inside of the smallest two tanks of the existing tank, because we needed to repurpose those basins for other needs, and they are sloped very aggressively at the bottom because they were for holding sludge. But that concrete was harder than, it was really, really hard. So they sent guys in there with jackhammers for a week, and they said, we're not gonna do this. So Interstate came out with their little, they have a demolition robot that they've been working on for 3 weeks now, trying to get this concrete pit sloped floor out of this tank. And I think it's gonna be basically a month that they're gonna have been working on it that way. And that's, they have to eat that cost, but it's, I think I heard it was like $380 an hour. And then they're running their crane to help pull the chips of concrete out, so it's, we gotta be over $500 an hour just to
Oh, yeah.
take out this concrete.
Had
So,
a crane hooked up to a little mini, I saw.
yeah,
Just taking
yeah, they're
strips
flying
off.
that, yeah, they're flying equipment around all over. It's a sight, really. There's a lot going on. But they're gonna have to eat that because it was a bid item. I mean, we told them they had to pull this concrete out. And that they had to figure out how to do it, so that's the
They
easiest way.
figured wrong.
Well, they thought a jackhammer and a 5-gallon bucket was gonna get them there, and we have
Old.
mini excavators with hydraulically powered jackhammers on them that they've taken a month with. So, it's crazy, but
They got the big bucks for it.
that is it. They're earning their money on that one. Metcon did finish erecting the storage garage. They're starting to work on plumbing and electrical inside of there. Peeper's working at installing the duct banks between the main building and the new equipment. It is a sight to see, especially for an electrician. It's 18 4-inch conduits all in a row covered in concrete, so it's pretty big. It's kind of neat, but I guess that's the wastewater plant. A few questions for everyone here in regards to the lateral ordinance that I've been working on. Do we for sure want to try and cover customers' laterals out to the edge of the right-of-way? And I would push an alternative, and I haven't seen this in other places, but I think it would make it more simple, is that we only cover to the edge of the roadway. So like, you could write in to the edge of the curb or edge of asphalt. Just in that, because looking at Columbus's ordinance, they had to write in that any dispute in where the edge of the right-of-way may be means the city has to cover the cost for a surveyor to come out and determine this, and it makes it a little more complicated.
I thought Dan said that most of, when the city did it, the city took care of it up to the.
Right, and we did.
Up to the edge of the sidewalks.
Yeah.
Right.
To
And
the
that's
edge of- the edge of
typically
the
the right-of-way is the edge of
Yeah.
the sidewalk. Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess I would say if that's what we've typically done in the past, then I think that's what we should be to the
Okay,
edge of the sidewalk or
right.
edge of the right of way or whatever. I mean,
Right.
that's kind of what Dan said, is
Right.
what they did in the past, is the city took care of it up to the edge
It's
of the
just-
sidewalk. That's probably what.
It's just gonna make it a little more complicated in when you do determine somebody has a problem.
Yeah, well,
That's
the
all.
thing of
But
it is
that what
if
it
the
is.
city put that part in, that's,
You should be responsible for it.
then the city should be responsible for the part that they put in.
And that's my only other concern with that, is that the most common fail point is gonna be where we connect our new stuff to their old stuff. So, for the most part, when we're going to the edge of the right of way, we're
Well,
going
you would
2
make-
feet past the edge of the right of way
Mhm.
is what they're installing. So
Mhm.
technically that connection point would be the customer's responsibility. I just wanted.
Yeah, well,
really
we're
make
responsible
sure
up
of
to that, and they're responsible for the connection to
Right.
they're responsible, the homeowner is responsible for the connection to the city line. So if there's a
Right.
problem at the connection, then it's the
At least that's
homeowner's,
not our
then
problem.
it's the homeowner's problem.
Right, and that would be, because, you know, majority of the time it's connecting PVC to clay, and what do you expect to happen? You know, so I just wanna somehow lay out in it that clearly states, you know, we're not gonna be liable for the connection point, or something to that effect. So otherwise, I guess the rest of it's mostly standard stuff that we've talked about. Is there, what, when cause I have the draft mostly done already. Do you want me to send it to everybody to review independently, or bring a copy to a meeting? It's just, it's 4 pages already, so I don't know that we're gonna sit here and read 4 pages of.
I guess I'd
Of
rather,
legal-
I guess I'd rather read it before we got to here.
Right.
And then
And then
we can make
Come
notes or
back and we
whatever.
can make,
Right, and that's what I thought, I just
I guess,
wanted to make sure that we were going to do that.
get it out.
Okay.
If you get it, we can have copies made and mailed to each member. How's that?
We can do anything.
Yeah.
Hand
Email.
delivered.
I can do that too, I know where everybody lives.
You know where we,
Boy,
oh,
we
boy.
can't hide.
Oh, they
boy,
sent
that's-
out an updated.
That sounds bad.
They sent out an
I know where
updated
you
contact
live.
list,
Ah, yep.
and then my address was wrong. So you can't find me.
Where'd you get that from?
From Kaylee,
Wow.
she sent it
So
2 weeks ago or something.
rather than saying a lot line or
I'm not sure about that.
the width of the roadway line, what if you just said 6 inches beyond the sidewalk?
And what typically,
You know,
they
into
do
the
replace-
property line, you know, that, we've only got,
Right.
streets that don't have sidewalk. You know, more clustered in the northwest
Right.
Yeah.
corner, but you could go somewhere and say, all right, this would be.
I guess
this would be
I
right
guess
from
there
here.
you put
And
it,
that's-
where there is a
yeah.
sidewalk, it's here, and where there isn't a sidewalk, it's
Right,
here.
So then you avoid,
There you go. That's
the question of having to get a surveyor, but.
Yeah,
Correct,
I would say
correct.
so many feet from the road if it's no sidewalk, and so many feet from the sidewalk,
And
or
that's- And I don't know.
if it's the sidewalk, if there's a sidewalk.
Okay, so maybe center or. Cause I was,
So many,
I don't, yeah, my first thought
6
was.
inches from the curb, 6 inches from the sidewalk.
Yeah,
like
something,
that.
something like,
Cause then at
You know,
least,
then it's standard,
yeah,
you know.
whatever the distance.
12 inches from the connection. To the from the city connection to the resident.
the only part is some of these connections,
Maybe standard.
some of these connections, they're meeting the customer's pipe halfway across their yard, just to get a, you know.
Yeah,
some-
well, I'm saying, I think there needs to be a standard distance either off the curb if there's no sidewalk, and a standard distance off the sidewalk if there is a sidewalk.
The only
6
difficulty
inches.
with that is depending on the road designation, your right of way width might change.
Well,
That
I'm
one
just
here
saying,
would-
I'm
that
not, I'm
was
not
just
giving
saying
road
from
away,
the-
I'm saying from the,
right.
from the edge of the curb, X number of,
Typically,
next distance,
And
and
then
then,
you're not
and
worried
then,
of- then you-
and off the sidewalk, and X distance.
I think we were typically doing, was it 8-foot boulevards, and then 3-foot or 4-foot sidewalks?
So whatever the sidewalk is, so if it's a foot off the, if we say a foot off the sidewalk, it's a foot off the sidewalk.
So it should be 12 feet, typically 12 feet from the edge of the road, so just say, well, something to that
I
effect.
think that'd be
The only
determined
problem
by
is
how
if
wide the
there's
street
old-
right of way is.
Yeah,
and-
if there's old roads and.
I'm just,
You know.
I mean, I would keep
Right,
it simple and
something
keep it
simple.
like a foot off the sidewalk or a foot off the street.
That way no survey is required, you can measure. it,
Yes,
say right
there's
there
a-
on the
yeah, there's a
flag,
foot and there's a
there,
foot.
You're responsible for here,
If you decide it needs to be 2
What if
feet,
there's no sidewalk?
Well, that's the
off the
thing.
curb.
Problem is, to repair a lateral that's not under any kind of pavement isn't that expensive. You know, you're not paying to replace any concrete. Not that bad.
Right.
All right,
I will roll with that and,
I don't know what the exact distance should be, but there should just be an exact
It's the same.
distance off the curb or off the sidewalk.
I will pick
If
something.
there's no sidewalk, then it's off the curb, and if there's a sidewalk, then it's off the sidewalk.
That's, I can, hopefully, I'm thinking by mid-month, I should have
That's
something. out
hopefully
to
be
you guys.
clear as mud. There's no ambiguity there. You start putting lot lines or whatever, and then it starts getting messy.
Right, then you need
All
a
right.
survey.
Okay. April 8th, we received the hardware for our truck mounted valve turner and hydrant turner. So we've been working on getting that all hooked up and put together. April 9th, Town and Country came to abandon the water and sanitary laterals to the house that was raised on South Island Street that Sensient had owned. Sensient paid for that, obviously. But while they were here, I did have them abandon the extra water service on the new house in the Moose Park at 587 East Island Street. So more or less, we did talk about that before, and that was a dual zoned property.
Right.
And in talking with the building inspector, he said, well, there's no rule saying you can't build less than it's zoned for, so, and then in looking at our ordinances, there's nothing, no bounds for me to tell a builder he has to pay to abandon this. So, I just told them as long as they're here, just take care of it. We haven't gotten that bill yet, I don't believe.
I had one close to me, yeah.
So we'll see what that costs. But it was kind of a time crunch because they obviously already poured the driveway there, so I needed to get it done
You made the right call.
for them.
Mhm.
So it's taken care of. April 10th, I put in a temporary water service to Sunset View because they were in such a hurry for the drywallers to get water. So they have it now. I told them to get the plumbers in as soon as possible, and we'll start hooking up services in the buildings, but they have not yet done that, and it's been 3 weeks.
Is there a meter on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they've used 100 gallons of water in a month. And
Tell them to go dig out the, take a bucket out to their mud puddle.
yeah, go to the ditch. There's plenty there. April 11th, Xylem or Flight installed our new lift station pump at lift station number 4. That was budgeted for this year. And we did keep the spare because it was still functioning. It was just replaced to match its partner from last year. So we do have a spare for that one now. I do not know 100% if it would fit in other places, but we can find that out as we go. April 15th, I got a phone call from Steve Pett with Dodge County Highway, and he did stop out to inform us that he must have worked out with Peter, or, because I know it wasn't with me, but he worked it out with somebody that the highway department purchased a hydrant meter and backflow preventer all in one unit. And that we were supposed to be manually reading this water meter, so basically every month, and billing for it. Well, that fell through the cracks last year, and he came to me and said, this meter started at 0 and now it's at 529,000 gallons, and we never paid for it. So we invoiced them for that now. So
Well, some of our consumption and loss was shit.
some of
6%.
some of last year's water sold.
That's their bulk water fill.
Yeah, they put it on like their trucks for doing shouldering and stuff.
Yeah.
But, so we are.
Is it still in that west building?
It's on the hydrant outside the northwest building.
So now it's on a sheet to be read.
We will be reading it every month now. Yes,
April was what, 43,000 gallons, I think?
this last month, something like that, 40 something.
It's always been there.
So,
Always. It was a brand new meter. Last
Well,
year.
they had a different bulk water fill up, and then they got switched, but they've always had the bulk water fill up there at the county.
Well, I don't know who was reading it or how it was being read, or unless that was before my time. but we're reading it now. We did have the 2 water services shut off due to non-payment. At the street project, we had a few complications when they had replaced the services at 218 East Oak Street. The excavator had caught the existing lateral while it was still live and filled the trench with water, and then they explained it to me as though the trench was full of water and then it flushed just like a toilet. I said, what does that mean?
Right into the basement.
And it was right in the mayor's basement.
They said, usually that's not a good thing. So they wound up calling a cleaning service. Well, they found that the basement was half flooded, more or less, so they called, and I don't remember the company that did it, but one of the cleaning services, Servpro, or one of them came out to, they ripped out all the carpet and 2 feet of drywall for that whole half the basement. And then while they were doing that, they also found a lead lateral going in the customer's side of the property. So the customer did pay to have that replaced at that time by White Plumbing with the help of R.D. Schmidt. That lead lateral was kind of fell through the cracks because it was buried in drywall that had been there forever. And the records that we had in our database was a customer submitted survey, so. That's kind of, we talked about this before, and that our survey data isn't 100%. That would be one of the oddballs. So it did get replaced right away, and it's taken care of now. And they did, so the customer's basement did flood because there was an 18-inch hole in the foundation wall of the building. So you could see into a cavern going out of the side of this building. So for whatever reason, and they have had issues with water in the past in that basement as well. So now that we caught the lateral doing construction, they really had issues in the basement for that circumstance. But anyhow, it is all better now, hopefully, and I don't know what they will be doing with the basement now that it's dried out. Anyhow, otherwise, today they did finish the last of the services that were going to be replaced. We'll be doing the last water main tie-in on Wednesday, so then all of the water and sewer work will be completed by, well, and they're gonna start working downtown this week. So the services that need to be replaced downtown proper are gonna be this week, so
They'll be done at the end of this week.
they'll probably be done.
They'll
by-
be done with storm next week.
Yeah, so R.D. Schmidt's will be out of here.
And they hit gas main today.
Hit it? Yeah. So, other than that, May 3rd, we did receive our final draft of the directional flushing program from MSA, and we will begin flushing on May 13th, which you probably didn't get your bills yet.
Nope.
We do have a notice in there that we will begin flushing this month with a coordinated map. Hopefully it's all easy to understand, but I made it all by myself. And then otherwise, this morning, Nick did help us pull lift station pump number 1 from lift station number 1. After it failed, it was more or less locked up, and then you try to pump it on hand and it would throw the breaker right away. So we pulled the pump thinking it was ragged up or something to that effect, and it was actually nothing in it. So I called our service rep, and he thought it was an electrical issue, which we troubleshooted, and after wiggling the wires, the issue went away. So we tightened some of the connections today, and it seems to be working now, so.
There was nothing obvious though.
There was nothing obvious. I mean, I got maybe an eighth of a turn out of 3 of the motor leads, but that's all we got out of it. So we're just gonna monitor it for a little while and see what we can come up with if it has more issues, but otherwise, that is my chronological calendar of events for this month.
Okay. Is Does anybody have any questions for Alex? All right. What I have has been taken care of. The dinner at the Golden Mass. The mayor is not here, so moving on. Do we have any old business? Any new business? Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Art, second by Dave. To adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.